A great interview not to be missed with Shane Sterling on orthorexia and eating disorders. What is orthorexia? It's an obsession with healthy eating. Is that a problem? Is that really? Well, let's discuss it. We'll discuss more in this phenomenal interview with Shane on his view on orthorexia and what truly is the real eating disorder. And don't forget, everybody, we've got the new Rawlicious 2023 calendar now for sale. 12 Rawlicious babes. Check it out. That link is in the description box below. We have the incredible Shane Sterling from Raw Vegan Rising. Thank you, Shane, for coming on. And we're going to be talking about orthorexia and eating disorders. What's the real eating disorder? So Shane, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're creating right now in the movement of raw veganism, and then we'll get into the details of orthorexia. What is orthorexia and how raw veganism has been brought into the term orthorexia, and we'll discuss eating disorders as well.
Thank you so much, Toni. I'm so happy to be here. You know, I'm a truth seeker. I love understanding natural law, and I love understanding how to make it as simple to understand as possible and sharing that with people. And if we just align with natural laws, our life improves. And that's our health, and that's our mental well-being, and that's our love and finances and our service to others and our work in the world, all of it. If we just align, we have a better life. So I love learning how we can just align our lives with natural law so we have that better experience, and sharing that and sharing what I've learned with others. So I'm a coach. I'm a raw vegan myself of 5 years. But I've been on this plant-based journey for 33 years. I first went vegan when I was 17, and I'm 50 now. So many, many years I've been focused on plant-based diet, whole food plant-based diet, juicing, how to be the healthiest version of myself. And it's led me to a raw vegan diet. Just simply undenatured, uncooked, whole foods as they come from Mother Nature. It's kind of the simplest natural law of all. Just eat the food as it comes, you know, grown from Mother Nature. So that is what I love talking about and sharing with people, the simplicity of that. And so as a coach, I've developed a program called Raw Vegan Heroes, which is my group membership. People can come in and get support. I also do bowel detoxification support with people. I help people juice fast. I help people do the gut microbiome transition that's necessary to thrive on raw foods, because often people think they can just eat more fruit or salad or have more juices and be healthy, but that's not what they experience. They might experience digestive discomfort or, you know, detox symptoms or some sort of nutritional deficiency from malabsorption in the gut. So we really have to address the gut microbiome first before we can even enjoy raw foods, really. So I really find this an important aspect to focus on with people, and I really help people do that.
Yeah, fantastic. So
also, I'm Raw Vegan Rising on social media. So if someone wants to find me, Raw Vegan Rising on Instagram and YouTube, and I have lots and lots of content. I'm voracious about making free content and sharing everything I know for absolutely free with people. So if someone's interested in a raw vegan diet, a lifestyle change that will make a huge difference for them, they can follow me on social media and find just a vast amount of knowledge and wisdom that I've shared from everything I've learned over the years.
Yeah, incredible. I'm part of your group as well, and it's one of the best, definitely hands down one of the best groups. Very like just incredible for community, and you know, and so much knowledge and support and love there. Thanks for opening that up and having that space for us, for those that are on this lifestyle, even, you know, the more experienced as well as the ones who are curious, you know, just sitting on the fence, just checking it out, just seeing what this lifestyle is about. I love it. Thank you.
It can be confusing because there's a lot of misinformation out there. One person says they heal on this diet, another person says they heal on this diet, and we can easily get very confused. And that's why I believe information is not where it's at all. Information is almost valueless in today's world of Google at our fingertips. What actually matters most is accountability and support, helping people achieve their goals. And of course, we all have different goals and have different awarenesses, and we're all at different places in our life, but accountability is how we actually achieve where we want to go, from where we are to where we want to go. Accountability, that's ultimately mentorship. Mentoring is just the ancient art of apprenticeship. We find someone who does what we want, who has what we want, and we learn through them how they've achieved it. And that is very different than information. There's no way to have misinformation or confusing, bombarding, conflicting thoughts coming at you when you are following in the footsteps of someone you admire on your path to achieve the same results.
Yeah, it's relatable as well. You don't feel like so alone, and you're seeing the results that they're achieving, they're receiving. So you see it in real time. It's happening with real people. So that, I feel, gives
Exactly.
that accountability that it is, you're on the right path, because it can be a little scary. And they say, like you said, there's so much confusion out there, which is, it's created that way, sadly. But we don't have to be confused. Once we've got direction, we make the commitment, and we're seeing others thrive.
And we get to pick people who we really resonate with and who we love and who inspire us. And then we can, follow in their footsteps.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. So they might follow somebody different than me, but I believe that ultimately achieving our goals gives us self-confidence, and being someone who trusts ourselves and believes in ourselves, that can help us break through limiting beliefs, break through trauma patterns that hold us back. That, building confidence, self-value, that gets us further in life than just about anything else. And we do that by achieving our goals and showing ourselves we can trust ourselves, and following a mentor and having that support and accountability on your journey, building your self-confidence. We can achieve amazing things that way.
Agree, totally. Yeah. So how does this relate to where, there is a little bit of stigma? We actually had a friend who was raw vegan for some time, and then she felt it got to the point where she felt it was, orthorexic. It was becoming that term. Where does the fine line of what orthorexia is and raw veganism?
We have to focus on what we want to achieve, and we have to set a goal and achieve it. If we do anything else, we're just letting ourselves down, and we will be in a perpetual state of confusion. The ship never leaves the harbor until it has a coordinates programmed into the GPS system. And if you ask the captain of a ship, where are you going? He will know instantaneously where he is headed with the exact coordinates. The ship will never leave harbor without that coordinates. We are like a ship in our goal setting. Say we want to be raw vegan. Well, we have to know exactly where we're going and why we're going there. And if we just start and don't have any guidance like that, we're going to easily get confused, sidetracked, distracted, or want to give up. Because a journey of transformation is a lot of work. It's a lot of investment. It's a lot of time to make massive change in our life, meaningful change, lasting change, breaking free from food addictions, breaking free from low self-esteem. This takes a really specific path of self-empowerment. And if we're doing it alone, just like the lone wolf syndrome, we're going to end up giving up on ourselves. Our ego will talk us out of what we need most, because we don't want to do the hard work. Our ego will say, no, you don't want to do the hard work. Don't do that. That's hard. But really, we want to work into our weaknesses. We want to work into the areas of our life where we're not thriving. And health is one of those. There's actually 4 pillars to fulfillment and happiness in life: health, love, money, and service to others. Those are the 4 pillars of success. And health is a major part of our fulfillment and happiness in life. And if any one of those 4 pillars is not nurtured and tended and thriving, all the others will suffer. So say we have great health, great money, great service work, but we're lacking in love. Imagine how we are in our life. Imagine how we feel. Obviously, that's a missing hole. It's going to affect everything we do. Same with health. If our health is lacking, it will affect everything else in our life. So we have to tend to the health pillar of our fulfillment and happiness. And that means exceptional goal setting and achieving our goals so that we know that we can believe in ourselves and trust ourselves. And that's where we have to decide what path we're going to take. I am a raw vegan. I am a raw vegan because I'm a truth seeker, and whole undenatured food provides the healthiest microbiome in our body. And essentially, when we're talking about health and building health, we're talking about transitioning the microbiome the microbiome to process, digest, utilize, and absorb the nutrients from raw plant foods. Now, in the past, what have we been eating? Most people have 20, 30 years of bad food, bad habits, bad diet built up in their gut. They have built a microbiome that thrives on meat and dairy and eggs and grains and starches and oils and cooked foods and processed foods. And then they go and try to do a raw vegan diet. Guess what? Those bacteria, the microbiome, which is 60% of all the cells in our body, cry out and send neurotransmitter signals to our brain saying, no, don't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. I want my normal food, and start demanding it. Unless we're focused on gut detoxification and the transitioning of our gut microbiome, it's very unlikely that someone will have success on a raw vegan diet. So orthorexia being the obsession of what we're doing and the obsession of food, well, if we're going to make a major transition in our gut microbiome, we've pretty much got to get obsessed. We've got to get obsessed with getting the results, which means proper goal setting, mentorship, proper guidance, following the proper protocols, knowing what we're doing, being intelligent about it, and investing in the right support and knowledge to achieve that goal. So there's a point where we want to obsess about our health, because if our health pillar struggles, our entire life will struggle. So it's worth investing. It's worth kicking butt in that arena of your life. And it takes dedication. It takes vision. It takes foresight. It takes courage. We have to be willing to let go of everything we've built up, including our microbiome, cultural traditions, family traditions. Self-identity has to change. And it's, it takes a year to turn something into like an ingrained habit where we really feel the benefits from like exercise or diet change. It takes a whole year, but it takes much more than that to change our identity, to see ourselves as somebody different. Maybe 2 or 3 years of consistent dedication, day in and day out, until we actually identify as a raw vegan, where it's not something we're doing, it's just who we are.
Yeah.
That's a big transition. And that takes obsession to a point, obsession in our own well-being, in our health, our vitality, and changing those stories in our mind that hold us back, keep us tethered to the old self, the old microbiome, the old food. It's quite a tether to break free from, and it takes a lot of work. So somebody who starts a raw vegan diet and eventually says, well, that's not for me, it's too hard or whatnot, they just haven't put in the effort to get the results, the identity change, and ultimately, fundamentally, the change of bacteria that make up 90% of the DNA in our body and 60% of the cells. So it's a massive transition, and it's worth it. It's the most worthwhile thing you'll ever do in your life, because if you can thrive on raw foods, you're going to be feeling in a way that you can't achieve any other way. And that's connection, vitality, energy, peace. There's a sense of peace being a raw vegan, and there's a sense of purpose and meaning. And it aligns with the ultimate natural law, which is our higher self, our spiritual self, aligning with our values as a human values, humanitarian type values with our actions. And when our spiritual self, our higher self, and our values and our actions align, it's unbelievable to experience that. And there is only one way to achieve that, which is a raw vegan diet.
Yeah. And you're so believe in that because of the results from yourself, but also seeing others achieve. There's a lot of stigma around orthorexia. It's a programming term to keep us away from the truth, isn't it? I feel like it's putting fear in people. Oh, I don't want to get too obsessed. Oh, that's extreme. What's really extreme is when we're suffering, and we're suffering on these cooked foods, these animal products. That's where we're going to talk about the real eating disorder. What is the real eating disorder, Shane?
Yeah, it's such a good point. Orthorexia and a lot of other terms are just kind of fear tactics to keep us away from focusing on what we really need to focus on. And people hide behind that, and they use it, they pull that card to dismiss it and to deny themselves the very results that they want most, and to also avoid the work and the diligence that it takes, and the commitment and the vision that it takes. The real eating disorder is eating processed cooked foods that deny us the life force that comes from Mother Nature, The electrons and the enzymes, these living components, are vital for our health. And if we're not eating these living foods, we're not getting the most important aspects of what is truly ours. And when we're eating cooked foods, overly cooked food diets, we obsess about the food. We're obsessing about not being able to get enough nutrition, true nutrition, and always counting calories, restricting, but wanting to binge, because you know what? When we eat cooked food, we can never get enough.
No.
As a raw vegan of 5 years, if I have a bite of cooked food, say potato or rice or something like that, it's a voracious feeling. It just, you can never be satisfied on it.
It's addictive. Yeah.
It's highly addictive.
Mm.
The beauty about raw foods is that you naturally know when to stop. The water and the fiber naturally trigger the feelings of being satiated, and it gives you a natural sense of being full, but never over full and never unhappy with the way you feel. The most amazing thing about being raw vegan is the way you feel after you eat. It energizes you. It doesn't bring you down, and you can just move on to the next thing and live your life, thrive, and excel at the things you're doing. But I will say, though, that it takes quite a while to achieve that result through the gut microbiome. And most people who dabble in a raw vegan diet and want to make a change, they maybe hear about raw food or they get excited about it for a couple months. They're not going to experience the necessary transition in the gut microbiome to really free themselves from true food addiction and eating disorders, which is thinking and acting on these cooked foods, thinking that we must eat cooked food, thinking that these cooked foods, animal products, are going to give us what we truly need. They create waste in the body, acid buildup in the body, bring our energy down. They're extremely hard to digest. When we're putting more energy into digesting our meal than we actually get from the meal itself, that's where we experience chronic fatigue. That's where we experience autoimmune. That's where we experience inflammation issues that come out through our skin or irritable bowels. We can't digest properly. We have, problems simply digesting the food, acid reflux, things like that. Then out of desperation, we might turn to raw food and say, well, raw food, help me, heal me. And then we try it for a couple months and we come up against the wall that our gut microbiome is not adapted to raw foods. So that's the real work. That's the real transition. And if we do that work diligently, we will set ourselves free from all food addiction forever, for real, from the root base stem origins of where the eating disorder even comes from in the first place.
Yeah, great. I like your point of view on that, but also to show people that we don't have to. You've got the transition phase. I know we go through how we see all the benefits now, but people do come up to these challenges initially. But once you break free from those, you're going to see the benefits. I do have some great questions, which pretty much you've covered a lot, but let's get some specifics, because this is quite a big topic, and we already said about it being quite polarizing, and it creates a lot of fear for people, but then it prevents them from actually trying this lifestyle. I did think, I'd say as a female, I've had distorted way of eating, definitely in the past, and I was always a little trying to get more of a balance, being in this standard diet programming of making sure I get my protein, my carbs, and a lot of them my protein coming from animals. I was in that big belief of that, like you can only get quality protein from animals. So I got quite obsessed with that, and I felt it triggered. Sometimes I was a little concerned if I go fully raw, that's going to trigger some of my old memories. And that's what people get, again, sometimes it could be the excuses, but for some it's genuine. They are so frightened that it prevents them going on this path. And I really do. That's why I really wanted to share this topic, because this is coming up quite often now with my clients as well. They're so, because of the friends around them, they're worried that it's going to trigger their eating disorder that they had. But again, what we've just discussed is the real eating disorder. But let's I've got a community, a free group, Raw Living, of 1.6k members in there, and they've asked quite a few questions, but enough I think some of them have been covered, but I want to go through some of them that are quite I think will be helpful for those watching. Could you just touch on, for those that don't understand what the microbiome is, what is the microbiome, Shane?
The microbiome is the microbes, the organisms, the bacteria, fungus, mold, and yeast that make up our body. 60% of the cells of our body are not human, they're microbial. And we have multiple microbiomes. Our skin has a microbiome, our mouth has a microbiome, but our gut, the digestive system, is the biggest microbiome of our body. It's estimated approximately 2 kilograms of our body weight is actually microbial inside of our gut microbiome. That's a very significant amount of microbes that are inside of us. If you take our digestive tract and you lay it out and open it up and splay it out, it would cover an entire tennis court. There's a lot of surface area there where the microbes touch every single thing that goes through our body. And that sends signals to our brain. It demands what we think about, what we search for in our food, what we look for to put in our mouth. And so these microbes basically control our mind. They have everything to do with how we think and feel about ourselves and our diet. So changing the gut microbiome is no small thing, but it will happen naturally over time if we just eat healthy food. The food source of the microbes is prebiotic. The prebiotic is the food source, and the microbes are the probiotic, the actual physical organisms that are there. So to feed a healthy, probiotic culture in the gut, we need to eat the prebiotic. And the prebiotic is the non-digestible, insoluble fiber of raw plants, raw fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. That insoluble fiber is the food source, which allows these microbes to flourish in the right balance. If we're not eating the right balance of foods, then we don't get the right food source, and we also create imbalances in the microbiome. Also, the diversity of the microbiome is very important, which is why we want to ingest some dirt on raw fruits and vegetables, play outside, get our hands dirty. The microbes that are all around us are part of us. They are us, and we can't escape them. The fear that we've experienced over the last few years coming from the mainstream narrative about outside threats from microorganisms is really not a proper understanding that we live simultaneously with viruses, molds, bacteria, fungus, and yeasts everywhere, and they are us. They make up us. So it's never about avoiding them. It's about creating the proper balance in the body and creating the right terrain for a detoxification to happen naturally in the body, so we don't get an imbalance of acids to alkaline chemistry. And if we do that, then we have exceptional mental health, because there's a superhighway that goes between the gut and the brain. They call the gut the second brain.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because there's more neurons in the gut than there is in the brain. More neurons. And there's also direct communication between the microbes in the gut and the impulses in the brain through the neurotransmitters. Also, all the neurotransmitters in our body, most of them are produced in the gut. Also, the hormones and serotonin and endorphins and other things that make us feel good and happy and give us a positive outlook are produced in the gut. So essentially, eating a raw vegan diet helps us have a better outlook on ourselves, helps us feel better, have better mental health. So honestly, if we're talking about eating disorders, we need the backup. We need the prerequisite help and support from the gut to support our mind, to support the way we feel. That's why a raw vegan diet, I believe, is the serious one solution that will heal all mental disorders and eating disorders, because a raw food diet doesn't give us anywhere to numb out. We can't go into the addiction. We can't go into eating these types of foods that we usually use to hide from our feelings. And when we can't hide from our feelings, we have to face it. And so a raw vegan diet is the opposite of an eating disorder, because there's nowhere to hide from ourselves. If you think about an eating disorder, it's kind of like perpetuating these traumatic patterns, hiding from original wounding, trauma wounding, shadow wounding. That's like all, skeletons in the closet. And we don't want to deal with that stuff. So we overeat, we undereat, we avoid ourselves. We avoid facing ourselves, looking at ourselves, healing ourselves. Well, if you eat raw food, there's no way to do that. because you have to literally feel it all. And building the gut microbiome and the support with the mental health and the superhighway between the gut and the brain and those neurons, that gives us the proper outlook. It gives us a head start in facing what we don't want to face, and that personal development and personal growth that ultimately we have to use to overcome things like eating disorders.
Yeah.
So ultimately the raw foods give us that foundation that takes our life to the next level and really heals all addiction and all trauma in our life. Now, that's a big statement and that's a big road, but ultimately, if we were just to eat raw foods consistently over time, it removes the blocks for who we really are truly designed to be: happy, spiritual, positive, growth-oriented, kind, benevolent, generous beings. And raw foods kind of removes the blocks from that. So we're not in these patterns of low self-worth and low self-esteem and
destructive
self-hatred
patterns.
So it's really getting out of self-hatred. I believe that all mental really, like, the eating disorder patterns come from a low self-esteem, whether it's not even our fault most of the time. We're trained this way. We're traumatized. We have heartbreak and betrayal and abandonment and abuse in our lives. We all do. And then it gets deeply ingrained and patterned into our life. And our subconscious mind always wants to heal these wounds, brings up the patterns over and over. So the eating disorders are like an attempt to re-wound ourselves so we can resolve it finally. And until we really deal with the root issue of the low self-worth, then the trauma of our life, we'll never get past the process of re-wounding ourselves. Raw food helps us. Raw food helps us stand square on, look at it and feel it, and not be able to run.
Yeah, without suppressing. Yeah, like you were saying, escaping. Yeah, we talk about this quite often because we're using food a lot to numb out, to escape, to not actually, when we can really help heal a lot of our, especially the mental. For me, that's what's helped me over the years more than the physical side. For hands down, the emotional, the stability that I have, I'm much more confident within myself just through able to feel my pain rather than suppressing. Because sometimes you just don't quite know what is the pain, what is it, but I don't want to face it. It's too scary. And then having the raw foods, not using what my old behaviors used to do, all these cooked numbing foods, would suppress, would allow me to, it's a drug like fix. I would just don't want to think about it. I want to numb out and just zone out of what I really am feeling. And once those emotions come up, that has been a big transformation for me.
It's definitely a drug fix. It's a sedative, essentially. Eating cooked foods, as a raw vegan of 5 years, if I have some cooked food, it's just like my energy goes down. My vitality just kind of like numbs out. I become sedated. I don't really have to think about much. It kind of just puts me in this numbed out state, which most people like and have become very accustomed to and think that that's normal, but it's really not. We should be operating at a much higher level of vibrancy, energy, and positive outlook and self-worth, and knowing the difference between right and wrong. And I use that lightly. I don't believe there is anything such thing as right and wrong. I think it's looking for win-win situations. If we're looking for win-win situations, then we're on the right path. If we're not thinking in terms of win-win, we're not on the right path. That's the spiritual evolution, becoming better versions of ourselves, helping others, the generosity from our hearts, spiritual growth and contribution of ourselves to the greater good. That is what we're all really after, whether we realize it or not. And cooked foods keep us back from that. And that's why I think we see in the world today so much fear, so much conflict, and because we're not really on the right path as a species, as humanity. Part of the work that I do in the world is helping people understand the power of getting realigned with the natural law, getting realigned with themselves, and getting on this path that will help bring out that service and that responsibility and that contribution and that vision of creating a better world. We all want that, whether we realize it or not. Some people maybe are so steeped in low self-esteem, self-abusive patterns of thought and actions that they don't even realize what they're capable of. They would never have an insight into who their true nature is. We deserve the best. We deserve to take up space. We deserve to be seen and heard and contribute. We deserve to really thrive at the highest level and be successful.
Words out my mouth then.
Yeah. And we all have access to that. We all have access to high levels of success, be monetary, love, all the relationships in our life, business, all we are entitled to that. It's our birthright.
We deserve it. Yeah. And we want to see others have this same experience or similar, that we don't have to suffer. We don't have to go through all this pain. And we're not alone. You're not alone in this.
Yeah, that's why it's important to align with people who we resonate with and find the mentoring, like I was saying, and find accountability for ourselves, because making those types of changes around self-worth and self-identity really requires group support, so we don't feel alone. The biggest transformations I've ever gone through in my life in terms of my self-worth and creating success from my self-worth, including my diet, including my businesses, everything has come from being in groups of accountability. And that's what I've learned works the best. And that's why I offer that through my Raw Vegan Heroes community, because I know accountability is more important than information. Accountability is more important than any other aspect for transformation. If we want to go from where we are today to where we want to be, accountability is how we get there.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Just let me touch on what because Kiki has asked a really good question. I've just come off it. Just bear with me. There we go. If someone is coming from a history of anorexia, do you think there are special considerations that should be taken into mind when going raw?
The cool thing is that a raw vegan diet will help us gain weight if we're underweight, and will help us lose weight if we're overweight. It just brings us into that balance. The hardest part of anorexia is going to be the trauma behind the restriction, the trauma behind the thought patterns that have led to that result. That's the hardest part. The vision is what leads us. It's like knowing what our destination needs to be is the hardest part, like the ship leaving the harbor. If we're going to heal anorexia, we have to know where we're going to do that. Otherwise, we're never going to even get started. So that's an identity change. And that's like a personal transformational shift that has to happen before we ever even start. Otherwise, we're going to just stay in the same patterns. Being really self-loving to ourselves, and realizing that self-love, self-care is important and we deserve it, but also that self-care isn't about pleasure. It's about discipline.
Yeah.
The highest level of self-care is discipline to giving ourselves what we really need to where we thrive because of it. The results speak for themselves. You can't fake health. It's not something that is fakeable. So we see the results of health when everything aligns. So coming from something like anorexia is like a lot of the disordered thinking. It's also, why are people in poverty? Why do people have lots of disordered thinking? And I think that comes from essentially trauma, unresolved trauma. It's okay that we have unresolved trauma. There's no blame in that, but it's really, are we going to take responsibility for healing our traumas? We're the only ones that can do it. Nobody can do it for us. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why we need to look to someone who's gone before us and say, I want what they have. Let me help. Like, how can you help? I need support, and seeking out the support with others who have gone before us. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Realizing that we have the need to change and the need to thrive. That's the most important thing. Realizing that we're not where we want to be, and having the self-worth to say, gosh darn it, I have to get into action. The other part on that is anger is a human emotion that instigates change. Anger is very important. And
I'm glad you touched on this, because I'm going through these periods where your anger does, heighten, and I'm going. But I know what you're going to say on this, because I've found it really reassuring.
It's so important, Toni. Anger is where we set boundaries.
Yeah.
So if we have an eating disorder like anorexia, or any thinking disorder like that, we're going to need to set a boundary. How are we going to set a boundary with ourselves that this is unacceptable behavior? Well, it's going to come through anger, because anger is the human emotion we use to set boundaries. But also, anger is very, very constructive. It's a very powerful human emotion when not directed at ourselves or others. If we take anger and we channel it into creating something new, we can easily get momentum into massive change in our life. But not if we direct anger at ourselves or others. If we blame others or we blame ourselves, we will get nowhere. So it's taking anger, setting a boundary, and propelling us forward to create change. And that leads us into courage. Anger becomes courage. And it takes courage to make change. So if we're going to have the courage to beat an eating disorder like anorexia, we've got to start with getting angry at what has caused this, angry at the trauma, angry at our complacency, angry at our unawareness, our unconscious behaviors. It's okay to get angry and set boundaries. That's for sure.
Yeah, an example of that is like when you first go vegan and you find out the truth of how we've been lied to, and they're showing these adverts of happy cows in the field. You get angry at them, and you get angry that you've been lied to, but then you start to realize, how can I channel this? And then you be the voice. That's how and you become a vegan. You start to not consume animals. And then for me now, I went raw vegan purely, not just for my health, but to know that I want to see more happy, balanced, loved individuals. And when you have a kinder, high vibrational diet of undenatured foods, that it, just like what you were sharing earlier, it makes sense for the world then to be more balanced. If we want to see that in the world, we become that and then share it, and then we see the benefits, and everyone else is, we're seeing a kinder, more compassionate, balanced, healthy individuals. So they're my two, the raw vegans, really to create more of a happy souls individuals. I want everyone to go vegan, but really I want people to go raw vegan, because then we have a next level world of good, positive souls.
Yes. Imagine if we were angry at a circumstance that happened to us, or angry at an abuser or a situation or something that was traumatic, and we got angry at ourselves, and we directed that anger at ourselves. Imagine how corrosive that would be. That could easily lead to an eating disorder or something like anorexia, constantly punishing ourselves.
Blaming yourself.
Blaming ourselves, punishing ourselves for this that's happened to us that we're so angry about, but we're not channeling that anger. Do you know that I went raw vegan by channeling my anger? That's what the catalyst was.
Yeah.
I got angry at my complacency. I got angry at the state of the world and the unconscious behavior, the unconsciousness. I had to just align myself with the truth. And so I had to get angry. But of course, I didn't project it at myself or others. I don't blame others, but I am in action. I'm in direct action. I actually started my group coaching program, Raw Vegan Heroes, out of anger. I remember the day I started Raw Vegan Heroes, the day I launched it, the day I invested in the website that hosts it and spent the money and started to promote it and mentioned it on my first YouTube video. The day that happened, I felt like I needed to pull on anger to get out of complacency, to just say enough is enough. I can't continue on with the path I've been on. I have to actually make massive change, and it's got to happen right now. And what do I pull on to make that change happen? What do I muster within myself? And it was anger that allowed that to happen in myself. It's changed my life. And I'm successful today in everything I do, in my business, my health, my relationships, my service work, because I've been able to pull on anger and use it to set boundaries and take massive action. So it's an important one.
Yeah, you've channeled it in amazing. Yeah, it's those that you say, if you're indirectly, and initially, I must admit, I get angry. I'm quick at picking that up first before it escalates into others and in myself. And then I'm like, how can I transmute this and channel this in a serving, more loving, compassionate way? So yeah, we can flip it. So if don't see anger as a negative emotion. We're going to feel all the spectrums of emotions, but let's transmute it. Let's channel it in a more positive, self loving way. Or loving way.
So true. Yeah, it's such a good point, Toni, too, that to turn it into a loving, positive thing, to take that human emotion, instead of having it be destructive, we have it be constructive, positive, supportive for others, turning it into a way that we can serve others. When we understand ourselves better, we can really help people more. So it's a journey of self-discovery. This life is an inside job. We look out with our eyes, but ultimately everything we experience is all internal. Everything we interpret, the meaning behind everything is all an internal job. If we want to transform the world, we transform ourselves from the inside. And that is sometimes hard to do and hard to have that perspective, but it's truly where it all starts. There's nothing that's ever happened to us. We've all just perceived circumstances that are fairly indifferent. The universe doesn't look at it as right or wrong. We make up the meaning about it. And as unfortunate as that is, it's a stark world we live in, and that's not always pleasant to face, that existential stark reality, but there's so much beauty and freedom that come from that, understanding that we are the creators of our reality. We are the ones that make the meaning around circumstances, and we can change any circumstance, any meaning at any split second. That therefore we can change our experience. We can change everything we see, feel, think, and hear, just in a split moment within ourselves.
Isn't that liberating? It's liberating. It's very empowering, to give that power back. And that's what you offer. That's what I see you sharing, giving that power back to ourselves, so that we're the change. It starts with us. We are the change, and we're seeing more and more those coming back to the heart and coming back to that love and connection. It's great to see, and I have more hope now, and more, it's like before, when you first, especially going on this path and you're going through your traumas and you're healing, sometimes it's serious, it's dark, you're going into the shadow, and then you have loads of moments, and even more now, especially daily. And I know you share that it's such a blessing and a great enlightening path to be on, and you become more sovereign. It's a great, I love this. It's a great journey. I never thought I was going to be 100% raw, but it just evolved and naturally progressed into now a way of being. It's just, I wouldn't want it any other way.
It was an evolution process for me too. I always thought going raw would be for like monks that live on a mountaintop or something, some sort of like spiritual devotional practice or something. And it is a devotional practice, but it can be practiced right here in our daily lives, and we can get amazing benefits from it. Now I am so grateful every time I sit down and eat just a salad or a meal of like berries or melons or something. I just feel so grateful that I found the truth, that I understand the simplicity, and the freedom that gives me is unbeatable. I mean, I can't, people often ask me, you must have extreme discipline to maintain a raw vegan diet. How could you do that? I can't see that for myself. And it's become so obvious that if I go down the path of cooked foods, I will suffer. If I go down the path of raw foods, I will thrive. And that's the simple truth.
It's back to that. Appreciation. It's your identity now. And it brings you back to simplicity, back to your heart. So you won't want it any other way. Okay, just two more questions, maybe, and then one just on mucoid plaque. So Chelsea said she has a history of ED, eating disorder, also ADHD. I go weeks without meals possible. I love smoothies and dehydrated. So dehydrating fruit, but hate raw fruit, but want more in my diet. Any tips with my complex sensory needs?
Well, I mean, okay, I say this with love, a lot of love and support. But what I hear in those words is somebody who's taken on somebody else's projection on them. That you have ADHD or these types of disorders like this, it's all just a projection. None of it's really real. We're all amazing spiritual beings that deserve the best. So at some point, we take on these identities from others. I always say the person with the biggest vision wins. If you go into a doctor's office and they project their vision on you and you're like, wow, that's so powerful, they have a big vision, they must be right, you're going to your own vision of who you are in your life path is going to get hijacked by somebody else's vision that isn't even yours or isn't even true. So the only thing that we really have to do is turn within, find the sovereignty, the spiritual origins of where we come from, who we are, do that self-discovery work, and then it doesn't matter what we are on the outside. We're not here to please others. We're not here to play any other version except what we came here to do. So it's about getting empowered in who we are with all of our flaws and loving ourselves with our flaws. Shadow work is a interesting process of not just accepting our shadow and our trauma and our pain, our grief, our loss, the shadow aspects of ourselves. It's not just accepting it, it's actually being thankful for it. It's actually making it a part of ourselves, leading with it, making it something that we are proud of. Oh, that trauma that happened to me. Oh, that shortcoming, that shadow part of myself that I'm so ashamed of, that I don't want anybody to know about me, that I hide every day of my life. Oh, that's what I actually need to lead with. That's what serves people, is when we're not ashamed of anything anymore.
Yeah.
So real shadow work, real spiritual growth isn't about attaining some enlightened state. It's about literally integrating the parts of us that we are most ashamed of and bringing it to the forefront and saying, yep, here I am, all of me, flawed, take it or leave it. This is who I am. So these types of diagnoses we get from the doctors is a bunch of BS as far as I'm concerned. We're all flawed and we're all perfect in our flaws. And we just need to be more self-confident and more self-loving, and that this is who we are and what we came in with. And we can turn any shame and trauma into our greatest gifts. Rumi said the wound is where the light enters us. That means our deepest shame is where our greatest power lies. And so there is nothing wrong with us under any circumstance. There just can't be.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And in regards to the having more raw foods, it's like what you said, as soon as you eat more and more, your microbiome changes and you start to crave. The more you eat is what you crave. So just start incorporating more, and you have to go through that transition. So
yeah, and that's the other part. See, I like to lead with the mental aspect, the mindset aspect, and the vision aspect, because really we can accomplish amazing things with our mind. Our mind can overcome the material aspects of it. It's not just about nutrition, it's about how we feel, our destiny's unfolding, who we are and who we want to be, and what we're enrolled in. That's the most important thing. Then from that place, we can choose what path we're going to take. I choose a raw vegan diet. If we're going to choose that path, then we have the sensory transition that actually physically has to happen to transition from cooked foods and animal products to raw foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's a big transition, and there's a lot that goes on there. A lot of fear comes up, a lot of physical sensations, a lot of physical trials and tribulations to completely transition. My transition took 3 years. And when I was in it, I kept thinking, oh yeah, I'm a year raw. I've made it. This feels so good. I know that I could be raw at a year. And then 2 years, oh, look back. Wow, I had so much more to go through. 3 years still, I had so much more to go through. Now at 5 years, I feel like I actually am, for the first time, like fully integrated, with my diet. And it's taken quite a lot.
We'll see in 10 years, in 5 years' time, you might look back, whoa, I'm still learning more.
I know it's a journey. This is why this is the personal inner journey of discovering ourselves. It's really never ending, ultimately. And a raw vegan diet, of course, helps us discover those shadow parts of ourselves, integrating them, loving them, becoming the best version of ourselves, uplifting the parts of our shame that we've denied ourselves our whole life. That's an ongoing process that will never end as long as we're alive. And it's so supported by raw foods.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned more of the the psychology behind it, the mindset, because we don't really share a lot. A lot ask what you eat, what's your daily, your meals, what you're having. It's not really about that. It's really more about embodying, enrolling into this lifestyle, and it's so much more than the food, which helps. And it's just back to, because once you realize it's actually more simple than you think. There's so much out there on raw foods anyways. You can search for that, and even in the group they share a lot of great recipes, but really it's about that the psychological, the mindset shift, that identity, and that's what you share, and that's why I resonate a lot with you, Shane, because of that.
I don't make recipe videos on YouTube. I don't do what I eat in a day videos. I don't talk about the diet and the food so much, because that's like 10% of it. 90% of it is what we're embodying, what our vision is, who we want to become, and what we're committed to creating. That's what matters. It's 90% mindset, and it's 90% of that being a choice. It's a choice we make. When we truly make a choice we've taken the biggest action step that we can possibly take. The choice is the biggest action step, not the actions, the choice. Like programming in a destination into the GPS of a ship in harbor. The second you program that in, that's the choice. That's all you need. That's done. It's a done deal. Now the ship can sail and meet its destination. But without that choice of where you're going, there is nothing. So making a choice, it holds within it all of the transformation. That's why people don't know how to make a choice or make the right choice, because it's so big. To truly make those big choices, our life changes in an instant forever. And that's all we really need to do to become a raw vegan or to beat our eating disorders, is making that choice to be exceptional, to be the person we were born to be the person we want to be. Make the choice. The rest will follow.
Yeah, I like to say intention. Once we set that intention, everything just follows naturally. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's the journey. Enjoy the journey. That's what I really embed. I had to really continue to reinforce. This is a journey. You do have a little slip up here and there, or you go back to your old eating ways, or your thought process. It's fine. It's self-love and knowing that we're already on the path. We're on the path. It's okay. It's not a. So to end, I think it's a good one to end on, actually, because then you can share about more of what you offer. Flora, I think it's Flora. What do you think about mucoid plaque to remove it from our bodies? And this is what you're an expert in, Shane. So this one's a good one to end on.
Yeah, mucoid plaque is inside of our digestive system. It accumulates over a lifetime of eating acid-forming foods. It's a protective method from the natural mucus that forms in our digestive tract. When we eat acid-forming foods like meat, milk, dairy products, eggs, grains, oils, sugar, it creates that mucus response. And over time, the mucus crystallizes, it hardens, and it forms these plaques that accumulate in the digestive system that inhibit bowel transit time, inhibit absorption, inhibit utilization of our food. So then we turn to raw foods and we're like, well, now I have a nutrient deficiency. Well, we have an absorption problem. So the very first step to be successful at a raw vegan diet is to remove all of the waste that's inside of the GI tract, including old fecal matter and old food that's in there, and other biofilms created by the bacteria that are in the microbiome. But then the holy grail is getting the mucoid plaque out, the old hardened mucus and proteins that inhibit bowel transit time and absorption of our food. If we can accomplish that goal, we can now know we will thrive on a raw vegan diet, because we will be able to absorb all of the nutrients, convert the nutrients, get all the amino acids and the proteins we need from greens and nuts and seeds. We don't need to overconsume complex starches and proteins, because we're getting everything from the basic building blocks of raw food. But our bowels, our gut, is in a condition currently where it's not able to access all of the nutrition out of the raw foods. The raw foods are a more subtle food. It needs to go through the digestive system quickly. It's filled with water. It's filled with whole fiber. So anything that obstructs that bowel transit time is going to create fermentation, bloating, gas, digestive discomfort, things like that. So getting the mucoid plaque out is step one. And this is what I've been doing for the last 5 years, is coaching people on how to do it. And I've created an incredible bowel detoxification guide that works wonders with people. All of my private clients who I work with hire me to do this type of bowel detoxification journey. It's a juice fast combined with other protocols that is very effective for removing mucoid plaque. And a lot of people say mucoid plaque isn't real, or that it doesn't exist. And it's just a way to bypass what is the biggest thing holding us back. Every single person I work with gets mucoid plaque out. Hundreds of people going through the Raw Vegan Heroes community membership that includes my bowel detoxification guide, doing DIY juice fasts, get the mucoid plaque out. Over and over, I see it. And we use husk and clay, psyllium husk and bentonite clay as part of the protocol. And these are powerful bowel detoxifiers and sweep through the digestive system to remove these plaques that have built up. No, a lot of the naysayers and people will say, well, the mucoid plaque is the psyllium husk. But with the amount of people I've worked with, it's so phenomenal to see. when we take the husk and clay for bowel detoxification, we can increase the amount. We see that husk and clay coming out of our digestive system when we're fasting, and then the mucoid plaque will release separately from the husk and clay. And I encourage my clients to increase the intensity, keep the intensity high, and the mucoid plaque will continue to come out, and then it will stop. And we'll keep the intensity of the husk and clay high, and the mucoid plaque will have stopped. We see the husk and clay coming out, and the plaque comes out. So I've learned firsthand over and over, working with hundreds of people, mucoid plaque is inside of our digestive system. It inhibits our absorption and utilization. And for people that I care about and love, I help them get it out.
Yeah.
Because it's just not acceptable to have that in there. It holds us back in so many ways. And it's probably the most important thing we could possibly do to transform our life. It actually gives us a boost mentally and emotionally and spiritually, and then also can transform our health. I've actually put on about like probably 40 pounds of muscle in the last 3 years since my bowel detoxification journey. I work out at the gym regularly, and I focus on strength training. And as the result of being raw vegan and having detoxed my bowels thoroughly, I've put on more muscle in my life in the last 3 years than I ever did prior.
Wow.
And I've been lifting weights for like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I never could put on muscle like I have in the last 3 years. And it's actually really mind-blowing to experience that. But I know it's because my absorption is so good from bowel detoxification plus raw foods. So who doesn't want to build muscle easier from going to the gym? Isn't that what everybody wants? Well, that's the kind of amazing results we can achieve when we detoxify out the hardened plaques and proteins and biofilms that are in there.
Yeah, who doesn't want quicker results? So putting in
Everybody
that
wants
work,
that.
it's worth it.
So after my extensive bowel detoxification phase, which was about 2 years, where I really focused on transitioning my gut microbiome, like I talk about in the beginning of this video, bowel detoxification, transitioning that gut microbiome, that took me 2 years, and I got down to about 145 pounds. I'm 6'2",
Wow.
and now I'm about 195 pounds.
Amazing.
So yeah, and obviously I'm not fat, you can see. So
Yeah.
that's not just body fat. It's like most of that's muscle. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised by that myself even. And so I've learned through my own personal journey the importance of this. Now I'm really fixated on it with my clients and people I support, how important it is. And I make it the backbone of kind of what I teach and what I help educate people on, because we don't realize it. And there's so much conflicting information and misinformation out there. That's why we need to bypass the information. You don't search on Google for stuff like this. This is about mentorship. You need to find somebody who has the results of bowel detoxification that's working for them, and go to them and say, how have you done it? Mentor with somebody. Don't try to research this stuff online. You'll get so confused.
Yeah. And that's the least thing we want, and because the confusion keeps us stuck and keeps us in that familiar patterns. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah. So, final words then to take away this incredible interview. Thank you, Shane, for coming on and sharing so much value as you do on all your social platforms. Incredible. I'll put all the links in the description box below, but they can find you at Raw Vegan Rising. You've got the Raw Vegan Rising Raw Vegan Heroes group. All that will be in the description. But final words to take away, those that are in a little bit of fear, who know that this just makes sense.
We deserve, my parting words would be that we deserve to thrive. It's our birthright. We came here. Let all the story go of like what's hurt us and what's held us back. Actually wear that on your sleeve. Let everybody see it. Make it a part of you, and lead with your pain, lead with your wounding. That's actually the best thing we can possibly do. Don't hide it. Let everybody see it and know about it. In fact, talk about it. Share that vulnerable part of yourself that you're ashamed of. That leads us out of the perpetual processes and
stuckness,
ways that we hold ourselves back. The patterns, the trauma patterns that really truly hold us back. So it starts with that. It starts with accepting the part of ourselves that we're ashamed of. And then it's actually accepting that we have this part that we're in denial about and that we have shame about, even in the first place. Like accept. And then from there, when we've really, really accepted ourselves, then we can start to implement some self-care discipline. Self-care is not about pleasure. Self-care is about creating structure for our life that allows us to thrive. The structure that allows us to thrive is true self-care. That comes after we accept and kind of bring along those parts of shame of ourselves, so it's a multiple step process. But if we do that, maybe we can get to the step where we're eating raw foods consistently over time, and then get the amazing physical benefits of the living foods that then become the spiritual benefits. Raw foods lead to clearing of the blocks of our physical body, and then it leads to the clearing of the blocks of our mental and emotional and spiritual body. It's a progression leading up out of shame all the way to high levels of joy and love and enlightenment.
Yeah.
And it's our journey that we came to this earth to do. Raw foods help us with the journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shane.
Yeah. Also, let me just say to find me on social media, Raw Vegan Rising on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My website is rawveganrising.com, and there I have my membership information. And there's a tab at the top called membership, and you can learn about the community that I offer. We have 1,000 people in the community right now. You get my bowel detoxification guide when you join, and you get a lot of other downloads and supportive documents. I have a meal plan with over 60 recipes. I have a success path video course, which is how to go from a non-vegan to a raw vegan hero, to be the hero in our own life, truly. And that's more about the identity shifts that we go through. It's the spiritual and emotional transformation. Is invaluable information. Really? I highly recommend everybody watch that video course. And that's through the amazing membership, Raw Vegan Heroes, which is just so life-changing. And the feedback I get from Raw Vegan Heroes is absolutely astounding. People telling me that it's been a miracle in their life and that it's changed their life for the better. And I hear it every day. So this is a movement that's bigger than all of us. This is not about me or my group. This is about us coming together and being part of something bigger than ourselves, so that we can all thrive and celebrate together. That's what it's about. Yeah.
It's exciting knowing we're not alone. We're all on this path together, this sacred journey. I think it's super incredible. So thank you.
And you're welcome. Thanks, Toni.
We're going to end on, if it's okay with you, Shane, I've been ending a lot of my guests on the be, feel, and stay Rawlicious, because you are Rawlicious. So you deserve to be embodying be, feel, and stay Rawlicious to everyone. So are you ready? Do you want to say it with me?
Okay.
Okay. Be, feel, and stay Rawlicious.
Rawlicious.
And then we do a kiss.
Wow.
Yay!
Much love to everyone.
Thank you so much, Shane. Nice to have you on, and hopefully we have you back very, very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Toni.